Sefer Daniel, we find the story, the famous story of Hanani Mishael Azariah, Perek Gimel. Nebuchadnezzar erected this statue of himself, and he said everybody has to bow down. There were 3 people who didn't want to bow down. Hanani Mishael Azariah. Nebuchadnezzar said, no problem. Option B, into the burning furnace. Threw them into the burning furnace. Psukim say in Daniel, Psukim say how it was miraculously they survived. Nebuchadnezzar himself saw it. He was able to see himself how they survived, and they left. Gemara in Psachim quotes Todos Ish Roimi, who says, "What's pshat? How did they have the strength to stand up against Nebuchadnezzar and not bow down?" They made a kal v'chomer. They made a logical inferred logically from the frogs, from the tzfardeim. In our parasha, we read that tzfardeim went into the ovens. They also gave up their lives. The tzfardeim have no obligation to do it, and they still did it. So we do have an obligation. We have to sanctify Hashem's name. So we're for sure, kal v'chomer. We're definitely obligated to give up our lives, and that's what we did. Shimon Schwab brings this medrash. And he says something we have to understand about this. What does it mean that the frogs weren't obligated? Why weren't they obligated? When Moshe Rabbeinu told Paro that there's going to be this plague of frogs, he told them clearly they're going to go into the ovens. So he said clearly the frogs are going to go into the ovens. More so, interestingly enough, the Medrash Sheikhatav says that those that went into the ovens, they actually survived, just like Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah. Side point, they actually survived, even when all the frogs were removed. They all died. All the frogs died. They stayed alive. But the truth is that they were obligated to do it, asked Rav Shimon Schwab. He says, Rav Shimon Schwab explains very beautifully. He says the Gemara, in a different place, Gemara in Sanhedrin says that actually at that moment, when Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah were faced with this test, when Nebuchadnezzar was telling them they have to bow down, Yecheskel appeared. Yecheskel Navi, the prophet Yecheskel appeared and he says, listen, I can get you out of here. I have a way to get you out of here. And he gave them advice. Gemara doesn't say exactly what the advice was. He gave them advice. And actually Daniel, who was with them, the 4th one, Hanani, Mishael, Azariah, together with Daniel ran away. He ran away and he saved himself. And Hanani, Mishael, Azariah said as follows. They said, actually, Tosfos and Psachim already says this, it's not really an idol. This is not an idol, it's a statue, it's the honor of the king, he wants everybody to honor him, it's the honor of the kingdom, and there's actually no blatant transgression if we're going to bow down to this statue. But you know what they're going to say tomorrow? The Jews are going to watch and they're going to say, the Jews are like everybody else. Everybody bowed down, the Jews also bow down. And tomorrow there'll be real idol worship going on here in Babylonia. And we want to stand up right now for the honor of Hashem, that there should never be even a question that we're bowing down to something that even resembles idol worshippers, and we're not going to run away. We're not going to take your opportunity, Cheskel. And they decided to stand against Nebuchadnezzar. Where did they get this from? Because in the frogs there's something very similar. Yes, there were millions of frogs, and Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu told Paro, he warned them, they're going to be all over the place. They're going to be in your houses. They're going to be in your beds. They're going to be in the ovens. But who said every frog had to go in the oven? No, only a few had to go into the ovens. From the millions of frogs, every frog could have said, I don't want to go into the oven. I'd rather sit on the kitchen table. I'd rather go into the dining room. I'll go into the swimming pool. I have other places where I can get it. Why do I have to go into it? But there were those heroes of the frogs. We don't really understand what that means. That's a whole different discussion. What does it mean that the frog decided? But there were heroes of the frogs, said Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah, that even though they were not obligated, they took upon themselves to be Mekadesh Shem Shemaim. They jumped into the oven. And Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah said that if a frog can do it, then absolutely, as a person, we're obligated to do that, stand up for the honor of Hashem, Mekadesh Shem Shemaim, and that's why they decided to give up their lives. And they were saved, and the frogs were saved, and there's actually a very big similarity, says Rav Shimon Schwab, between these two ideas of the frogs and Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah. Every one of us is faced in our lives with situations where we have to go out of our comfort zone. We're faced with tests and tribulations. Should we take the easy way out, or should we face up and should we do what's right when we know what's right? Every time we do that, we're following in the footsteps of Hananiah, the famous heroes, the Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah, who learned from our parasha, from the story of the frogs, of what it really means to make a Kiddush Hashem, Mikadesh Shem Shamayim. Good Shabbos.